in its tracks, and parenting and teaching become extremely difficult.
You co-wrote this book, and you both found, in your experience, hold on to your kids, that your kids were becoming increasingly secretive and unreachable.
Well, that's the thing. See, now, if your spouse or partner, adult spouse or partner, came home from work and didn't give you the time of day, and got on the phone and talked with other people all the time, and spent all their time on email talking to other people, your friends wouldn't say you got a behavior problem, you should try tough love. They'd say you got a relationship problem. But when children act in these ways, we think we have a behavior problem. We try and control the behaviors. In fact, what they're showing us, is that my children show this as well, is that I had a relationship problem with them. They weren't connected enough with me and too connected to the peer group. So that's why they wanted to spend all their time with the peer group. And now we've given kids the technology to do that with. So the terrible downside of the internet is that now kids are spending time with each other.
Not even in the presence of each other.
That's exactly the point, because you see, that's an attachment dynamic. One of the basic ways that people attach to each other is to want to be with the people that you want to connect with. So when kids spend time with each other, it's not a behavior problem. It's a sign that their relationships have been skewed towards the peer group. And that's why it's so difficult to peel them off their computers, because their desperation is to connect with the people that they're trying to attach to. And that's no longer us as the adults, as the parents in our lives.
So how do you change this dynamic?
Well, first we have to recognize its manifestations. And so you have to recognize it whenever the child doesn't look adults in the eye anymore. When the child wants to be always on the Skype or the cell phone or Twittering or emailing or MSN Messengering. You recognize it when the child becomes oppositional to adults. We tend to think that that's a normal childhood phenomenon. It's normal only to a certain degree.
Well, they have to rebel in order to separate later.
No. They have to separate, but they don't have to rebel. In other words, separation is a normal human, individuation is a normal human developmental stage. You have to become a separate individual person. But it doesn't mean you have to reject and be hostile to the values of the adults. As a matter of fact, in traditional societies, children would become adults by being initiated into the adult group by elders, like the Jewish bar mitzvah ceremony or the initiation rituals of tribal cultures around the world. Now kids are initiated by other kids, and then you have the gang phenomenon. So that the teenage gang phenomenon is actually a misplaced initiation and orientation ritual, where kids are now rebelling against adult values. But it's not because they're bad kids, but because they become disconnected from adults.
Dr. Mate, there's a whole debate about education in the United States right now. How does this fit in?
Well, you have to ask, how do children learn? How do children learn? And learning is an attachment dynamic as well. You learn when you want to be like somebody, so you copy them, so you learn from them. You learn when you're curious. And you learn when you're willing to try something, and if it doesn't work, you try something else. Now, here's what happens. Caring about something, being curious about something, and recognizing that something doesn't work, you have to have a certain degree of emotional security. You have to be able to be open and vulnerable. Children who become peer-oriented, because the peer world is so dangerous and so fraught with bullying and ostracization and dissing and exclusion and negative talk, how does the child protect himself or herself from all that negativity in the peer world? Because children are not committed to each other's unconditional loving acceptance. Even adults have a hard time giving that. Children can't do it. Those children become very insecure, and emotionally, to protect themselves, they shut down. They become hardened, so they become cool. Nothing matters. Cool is the ethic. You see the rock videos, it's all about cool. It's all about aggression and cool and no real emotion. Now, when that happens, curiosity goes, because curiosity is vulnerable, because you care about something, and you're admitting that you don't know. You won't try anything, and because if you fail, again, your vulnerability is exposed. So you're not willing to have trial and error. And in terms of who you're learning from, as long as kids were attaching to adults, they were looking to the adults to be modeling themselves on, to learn from, and to get their cues from. Now, kids are still learning from the people they're attached to, but now it's other kids. So you have whole generations of kids that are looking to other kids now to be their main caregivers. So teachers have an almost impossible problem on their hands. And unfortunately, in North America, again, education is seen as a question of academic pedagogy, hence these terrible standardized tests. And the very teachers who work with the most difficult kids are the ones who are most penalized.
Because if they don't have good test scores, standardized test scores in their class,
They're seen as bad
then
teachers.
they could be fired. They're seen as bad teachers, which means they're going to want to kick out any difficult kids.
That's exactly it. The difficult kids are kicked out, and teachers will be afraid to go into neighborhoods where, because of troubled family relationships, the kids are having difficulties. The kids are peer-oriented. The kids are not looking to the teachers. And this is seen as a reflection. So actually teachers are being slandered now. Teachers are being slandered now because of the failure of the American society to produce the right environment for child development.
Because of the destruction of American childhood.
That's right.
You write in your book about the phenomenon of peer orientation and the legacy of it, why we must hold on.
Yeah.
So we only have a few minutes right
Yeah.
now, but can you talk about both, especially how parents break the cycle? And not only parents, but elders in the community.
Well, first of all, what the problem reflects is the loss of the community and the neighborhood. We have to recreate that. So the schools have to become not just places of pedagogy, but places of emotional connection. The teachers should be in the emotional connection game before they attempt to be in the pedagogy game. Kindergartens. Studies in the States have shown that children in kindergartens have higher stress hormone levels those kids at home than those kids at home, except in those daycares where there's a decent adult-to-child relationship. Parents should not encourage sleepovers and play dates all the time. Kids have already spent all their time with each other throughout the whole week in the absence of the parents, because both the parents have to work, especially in this economy.
But isn't it good, isn't it different when the kids are at home so that the parents are there, they can see the friends, they can interact with the friends?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with kids having friends. It's a question of, do they do it under parental leadership, or do they do it in separation from the parents? Then we have to learn how to teach kids discipline without punishing them, because punishment drives the kid further away from the parent. So that in North America, the whole way we raised kids, the context is wrong, and the methods that people are taught are wrong. And then no wonder then that we're having such a huge problem with our children and adolescents.
Canadian physician Dr. Gabor Mate, author of 4 books, including Scattered, How Attention Deficit Disorder Originates and What You Can Do About It, and with Dr. Gordon Neufeld, Hold On to Your Kids, Why Parents Need to Matter More Than Peers. If you'd like a copy of today's show, you can go to our website at democracynow.org. You can also join in the conversation about what